It's 1933. The radio carries Roosevelt's gentle voice, Berlin hosts dreams of cinema, and the first Monopoly boards appear on kitchen tables. Welcome, dear listener, and welcome back to Toro's History Lullabies. Tonight, we drift softly into the year 1933, a year of turning pages and quiet resilience. The world, still resting uneasily in the shadows of the Great Depression, found itself searching for hope in unexpected places, in the crackle of the radio, in the flicker of silver screens, in the warmth of shared meals. This year, people spoke of new beginnings, of leaders taking their first steps, of nations shaping paths that would echo through time. Yet alongside these headlines, there was the rhythm of everyday life, the laughter of children skipping rope in narrow streets, the careful hands of seamstresses mending clothes, the smell of bread baking in village ovens. As we wander together through 1933, let the stories be soft and steady, like waves washing gently against a quiet shore. History may carry weight, but tonight, it becomes a lullaby, full of small details, hushed voices, and the comfort of knowing that, in every era, people found ways to endure, to create, and to dream. Before we continue, I would just say that I really appreciate that you want to join me in the epic journey throughout the decades, from 1900 and to this day. Please, before you fall asleep, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment about your best memory from the last 125 years. Now let's get back to the story. So settle in, and let us drift through the calm wonder of 1933. World events. In the early months of 1933, the United States welcomed Franklin Delano Roosevelt as its new president. His calm voice, carried across the nation through radio broadcasts, became known as fireside chats. In those chats, he spoke not with grand speeches, but with the intimacy of a neighbor sitting close, offering reassurance during the hardest of times. The country listened, many gathered around wooden radios in living rooms where the glow of vacuum tubes hummed faintly. His New Deal, though complex and far-reaching, was first and foremost a promise that better days would come. Elsewhere in the world, Germany experienced a shift that would cast a long shadow. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor in January. In those early days, not everyone could yet see the path ahead, but whispers of change, stern parades, strict symbols, new flags unfurled, signaled the rise of something formidable. For ordinary Berliners, however, daily life still included trips to the market, evenings at the cinema, and the hum of trams moving through wide boulevards. In Britain, meanwhile, a quieter event unfolded. The country officially abandoned the gold standard, a technical matter that nonetheless touched the lives of ordinary people. Money stretched differently, markets adjusted, and many households tightened their belts in subtle, everyday ways, more stews, fewer luxuries, and careful notes scribbled in household ledgers. Across the Pacific, in Japan, the world of politics and the world of empire were interwoven with ambition. The country withdrew from the League of Nations this year, a signal of independence from the international community. The news, carried across headlines, spoke of diplomacy and disagreement, while children still attended their schools, bowed politely at the start of lessons, and played games in shaded courtyards. And in the midst of all these sweeping events, nature too left its marks. In America, the first signs of what would later be called the Dust Bowl began to stir. Dry winds carried earth across plains, dimming skies, and unsettling farmers who looked out at fields that once seemed endless and fertile. It was a reminder that history is shaped not only by people, but also by the land itself, and the way it breathes and bends with weather. Thus, 1933 unfolded as a year of shifting powers, economic experiments, and quiet determination. Each headline told one story, but in kitchens and living rooms, the story was always the same: families holding on to the simple rhythms of daily life, finding steadiness in uncertain times. One story that shaped 1933. Perhaps the story most remembered from 1933 is that of Roosevelt's New Deal and the hope it carried. Imagine a quiet American town in spring. The streets are lined with houses whose paint has faded in the long years of hardship. Inside one such home, a family gathers near their polished wood radio. The father adjusts the dial until a warm hum fills the room, and then a voice arrives, gentle, steady, reassuring. "Let me assert my firm belief," Roosevelt says, "that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself." His words float into living rooms across the nation, as though he were speaking directly to each household, acknowledging their worries, yet planting seeds of courage. The New Deal was not a single act, but a collection of programs. Men found work through the Civilian Conservation Corps, planting trees, building parks, and restoring the land. Others gained jobs repairing roads, erecting schools, or working in post offices. Slowly, towns saw the quiet arrival of progress: new benches in public squares, fresh paint on public buildings, carefully tended parks. For children, the changes were subtle yet meaningful. They saw their fathers come home with work once more, bringing not just wages but dignity. They played in the shade of trees newly planted by the CCC, unaware that they were part of a larger story of renewal. The New Deal carried with it more than policy; it carried a feeling. A sense that even in dark times, something could be done. And in the hush of 1933, when so many were tired and uncertain, that feeling became a gentle anchor, a reminder that hope, even when fragile, could still be planted, watered, and made to grow. Daily life around the world. If you could stroll through the world of 1933, you would find a patchwork of everyday scenes, each with its own quiet charm. In the streets of New York, children played with marbles, hopscotch, and jacks, chalk marks on sidewalks fading beneath the shuffle of shoes. In Paris, cafes still bustled, though patrons often lingered over one cup of coffee for hours, stretching time as much as coins. Clothing was practical, yet touched by elegance. Men wore fedoras tilted just so, their suits often patched or worn, but brushed carefully to keep appearances. Women favored dresses that flowed softly below the knee, with belts at the waist and hats that framed their faces. In rural villages, however, clothes were simpler, often handmade or mended over and over until fabric grew thin but carried the tenderness of many stitches. Meals varied from place to place, yet they were often humble. In America, stews of beans, potatoes, and bits of meat simmered in pots, filling kitchens with warm scents. In Britain, bread and butter with a splash of tea was a comfort, even when sugar was scarce. In Japan, bowls of rice remained steady companions, with pickled vegetables and miso soup offering balance. Transportation was a mix of old and new. In bustling cities, trams and buses wove steady paths through traffic, while bicycles rattled along cobblestones. Automobiles, though fewer than today, were cherished by those who had them, polished on Sundays and driven with pride. In the countryside, horse-drawn carts were still a common sight, carrying hay, produce, or families wrapped in wool blankets on cool mornings. Evenings often carried a kind of magic. Families gathered around radios to listen to dramas, music, or news. In the glow of lamplight, children played board games, and 1933 saw the first appearance of Monopoly, a game that would grow into a household favorite. Imagine the laughter as children counted paper bills, bought properties, and playfully argued about rules, while parents watched with fond amusement. Despite the hardships, daily life in 1933 was full of small joys: the comfort of a freshly baked loaf, the rhythm of familiar songs, the sight of neighbors waving from porches. It was these moments, as much as any headline, that gave the year its quiet heartbeat. Science, inventions, and technology. 1933 was a year of curiosity and quiet marvels in the world of science and invention. In laboratories, discoveries unfolded that would ripple far into the future. One of the most significant was the isolation of the neutron by James Chadwick, which opened doors to a deeper understanding of the atom. Though few households knew of it at the time, this finding would later shape entire chapters of science. Elsewhere, in the realm of everyday life, refrigeration technology was improving. More households began to replace iceboxes with electric refrigerators, bringing a new kind of convenience to kitchens. It meant milk stayed fresh longer, vegetables crisp, leftovers safe to eat the next day. Such quiet changes reshaped domestic routines in ways that felt almost magical. The world of aviation was alive with daring feats. Wiley Post, an American pilot, completed his remarkable solo flight around the world this year. Newspapers marveled at his courage and skill, while ordinary readers dreamed of far-off places as they traced his journey across maps. Radio, too, was reaching new heights. Sets grew more reliable, signals clearer, and programs more varied. Families could listen to orchestras playing live in distant concert halls, their living rooms filling with sound as though the walls themselves were vibrating with strings and horns. For many, radio was not only a tool but a wonder, a thread that stitched the world together with invisible waves. And in small ways, technology touched toys and games. Simple wind-up cars, dolls with moving eyes, and puzzles gave children delight. For them, the marvel of invention was not in scientific journals but in the quiet joy of play. Thus, 1933 was a year where science pressed forward, invention softened everyday life, and technology, quietly humming, made the world feel a little more connected. Culture and the arts. In 1933, art and culture provided refuge and delight. The silver screen glowed brighter than ever, with films offering escape from everyday troubles. That year, audiences gasped at the towering figure of King Kong, a cinematic marvel that blended adventure, fantasy, and spectacle. Children clutched their parents' hands in awe, while couples whispered in darkened theaters, transported into another world. Music, too, lifted spirits. Swing and jazz carried their lively rhythms across dance halls. Bands led by Duke Ellington and Benny Goodman filled the airwaves, while in smoky clubs, smaller groups played for dancers who twirled, laughed, and forgot their worries for an evening. Radios brought these sounds into homes, where families sometimes pushed back furniture to dance a little themselves. In literature, works like James Hilton's Lost Horizon offered new dreams, painting images of hidden valleys and gentle utopias. Readers turned the pages slowly, savoring the thought of faraway places untouched by hardship. The world of visual art leaned toward both tradition and boldness. Painters explored abstraction and surrealism, while others kept to calm, pastoral scenes. Galleries showed both, and visitors walked quietly among canvases, some puzzled, others enchanted. And for those who sought leisure in sports, 1933 brought simple pleasures. Baseball continued to be America's pastime, with fans crowding ballparks, munching peanuts, and cheering under open skies. In Europe, football, or soccer, filled stadiums with cheers, scarves waving in the breeze. Culture in 1933 was not only an escape but a reminder: beauty, creativity, and play could still flourish even when times were uncertain. And in that way, art became not just entertainment, but a balm for weary hearts. Media and headlines. News in 1933 came wrapped in ink and paper. Newspapers were the heartbeat of information, their pages rustling each morning in kitchens and cafes. The radio, too, carried voices across great distances, though many still trusted the solidity of print. Headlines this year spoke of Roosevelt's inauguration, of Germany's new chancellor, of Japan leaving the League of Nations. They also carried smaller stories, a daring pilot completing a journey, a new film thrilling audiences, and local fairs continuing traditions with ribbons and contests. The prices of goods told their own quiet story. A loaf of bread in the United States cost about 7 cents. A gallon of gasoline, 10 cents. A ticket to the movies, 25 cents, a small price for an evening's escape into flickering light. Newspapers themselves could be bought for just 2 or 3 cents, offering pages of news, puzzles, comics, and advertisements promising everything from radios to soap. One might open the paper and read about storms in the Midwest, then glance at an ad for a new washing machine, or chuckle at a cartoon character in the Sunday Funnies. The contrast of the serious and the whimsical made the paper not just a record of history, but a companion to daily life. Thus, the headlines of 1933 carried both weight and levity, reminding people that the world was always a blend of great changes and small comforts. People born and people passed away this year. 1933 saw the arrival of many who would shape the years ahead. Among them was Yoko Ono, who would one day weave art and music into bold statements. Nina Simone, born this year, would later enchant the world with her voice, her piano, and her unshakable presence. Willie Nelson, too, entered the world in 1933, bringing with him a future of songs that would become American staples. This year also marked the passing of those whose names were well known. American inventor Thomas Edison, whose light bulb had illuminated millions of homes, passed away in late 1931, in 1931, but in 1933 the world remembered his legacy as his influence still lit up the nights. In 1933 specifically, we said farewell to John Galsworthy, English novelist and Nobel Prize laureate, whose stories of the Forsyte family gave voice to an era. Each birth and each farewell was part of the flow of history, a reminder that even as some voices quieted, new ones began to hum softly into being. As 1933 came to a close, the world felt both fragile and resilient. The Great Depression still weighed heavily, yet threads of renewal had begun to weave themselves into daily life. Roosevelt's voice continued to reassure, his New Deal programs planting seeds of change. Across oceans, however, darker currents stirred, with political shifts that would echo ominously in years to come. Yet for ordinary people, the close of the year was marked less by global anxieties and more by familiar rituals. Families decorated homes for winter holidays, lit candles, and sang songs. Children dreamed of gifts, modest though they were, wrapped in simple paper or tied with ribbon. Villages and towns came alive with gatherings, neighbors offering warmth and cheer against the cold. There was a sense, too, of looking forward, not with certainty, but with the quiet courage of those who had endured much already. The year 1933, with all its complexities, had shown that even in hard times, hope could flicker steadily, carried in the small kindnesses of everyday life. As the final days of December slipped into January, the world exhaled. A new year awaited, holding unknown challenges and untold joys. But for now, people rested, listening to the soft crackle of radios, the laughter of loved ones, and the comforting silence of nights shared together. And so, dear listener, our journey through 1933 draws to a close. I hope these gentle stories have carried you toward rest, wrapping history around you like a warm blanket. If you've enjoyed drifting through time with me tonight, I invite you to softly tap the like button and subscribe to Toro's History Lullabies, where each week we wander together into another year, another story, another quiet chapter of the past. Until next time, may your dreams be calm, your sleep deep, and your heart light. And as we turn the page from 1933, let us drift forward, hand in hand, into the gentle unknown of 1934. Good night.